I've been doing revisions, creating scenes, and working on my mental diet. It almost seems like the opposite of what I had intended is coming into my world. I created an end scene with my specific person. He offered me a job. I could not take the job and explained to him. He also asked me for coffee, but I couldn't go that day and said I could go another day. Now he unfollowed me on Instagram and isn't returning my texts. What have I done wrong? I just got this email from you too that I haven't had a chance to respond yet, but there's a lot missing here. This is a very scattered idea of manifesting. I have to kind of figure out a way to break this down in a quick manner. This is a very crucial, important fact that answers a lot of questions as far as manifestation is concerned. Time, right? So basically what you're saying is this. I'm going to rephrase what you've said based on your premise. Basically what you've written here is this. I've been doing revision, subconscious mind tape, creating scenes. I'm working on my mental diet. And I expect these changes to be coming quickly. This is the part that I've added, but this is what you're saying. I'm expecting these changes to come immediately. But it almost seems like the opposite of what I had intended is coming into my 3D world. Which, and I'm also adding this, what you're saying is, which shouldn't be happening because it should be going in the direct way that I've imagined, right? You're saying I created an end scene with my specific person. I canceled plans, unfollowed me on Instagram, not returning my text. What have I done wrong? So your premise is that you have some way interfered with your manifestation, or your premise is that this should be happening in a way that you want it to happen, right? And that sounds like obvious, right? Like, yeah, I want things to happen the way I want it to happen. But in truth, manifestations unfold in whatever way God makes it unfold, right? And the way that, but really what that means is based on your assumptions and ideas, generally speaking, your belief systems, that is how your manifestations unfold, generally speaking. But it's not in a way that we map out. For instance, you shouldn't have done this. I don't think you did, but what I'm saying is like something that we don't do. So we imagine the end, right? And the middle gets filled in. But basically now what you're saying is I imagine the end, but I also want the middle to go in an exact way that I want. That's not how it works. So we imagine the end, and in its own time, in its own way, in the perfect way, all things maneuver and end the way that we want them. So the only flaws that I see in the premise here is that you're expecting this to happen in a time frame. It seems that you're thinking, well, this should be happening in a way I want it to happen, right? And we don't choose the middle, right? We don't control how it's going to happen at all. We define an end scene, and then the bridge of incidents unfolds and leads us to the end. You're also comparing, which is a big problem, comparing the events now to what you want, which means you will consistently be in a state of reaction if you always are comparing what's going to happen today to what you have imagined. So the way to do this properly is to imagine something, and then after you do it properly, live presently, meaning don't always compare or expect every single moment of the day to go towards your end, because all that there's a difference between that. There's I forget the word that I normally use, but the discrepancy between what's happening now and what we want, there's that gap in between, and that gap measures pain. So the more we consistently compare the events right now to the end that I've imagined, the more pain arises. So the solution then comes to imagining what we want to the best of our ability, doing all the subconscious mind tapes, the inner conversations, imaginal scenes, visualizations, writing things down. We do it to the best of our ability, then we let go, right? Then we let go. And that is the only, so events are going to transpire, and some of them may be seeming to go in the wrong direction, right? They may be seeming to be making a left-hand turn instead of a right-hand turn. But this is trusting the process in manifestation. When you begin to get a bunch of manifestations under your belt, you'll realize that these events don't matter. Nothing that's happening right now matters. I don't even think you've done anything wrong. The only thing is I think your expectations are a little bit off. Expecting that it's going to go in a straight line towards your end is a big flaw. It's not that it can't happen that way, but it's that we don't know at all. There's zero indication of which way it's going to go before it lands on your end. And that, if we can understand that, then you will basically have most of your anxieties taken care of during the entire process. So ask yourself now, the expectations that I have, what do I expect? And I'll name for you the actual expectations. Imagine the end, and the blanks will be filled in by something that has nothing to do with us, which means we can't expect it to go to the left or to the right, but it will eventually go to the end. Does that make sense? Is that a good way of explaining that? It will go to your end, just don't react in the meanwhile. It will go to your end, just don't react in the meanwhile. Reaction is one of those things that keeps throwing more negative seeds, right? But if you just live life without comparing now to the end, we won't keep reacting negatively, which is creating more problems and more turbulence in our bridge of incidents. And that is so crucial. So for me personally, what I do when I imagine something is I go through a process of making sure that I really fertilize this subconscious mind. That is my number one thing. And in fact, nothing in this world has any indication relating to what's to come. This world right now is in a perfect balance by yesterday's imaginal acts. So today, when I switch it, now the world will begin to change in a way which will present me with what I want. It may not happen today. It may not happen next Wednesday. But eventually, if I have impressed or impregnated my subconscious mind effectively enough, then I will receive what I want. But the keys are, time is something that we have like when I say no control over, I mean, I can't set a date. Right? What I can do is optimize my subconscious mind by changing assumptions, beliefs, and attitudes, right? Which is what I would recommend for everyone. But it is not Joseph Alai's conscious mind, my analytical mind, which is dictating the bridge of incidents, right? So what you're encountering is a bridge of incidents that you dislike, but we are not in charge of that bridge of incidents. And that bridge of incidents is also, and I mean this, I say this very carefully, the bridge of incidents, if it is going in any which direction, there is no indication that there is a failure coming, right? So no matter if it's going left or right, and I talk about my friend in one of my earlier videos, explaining how I imagined him sober. The next day he was in a gutter, literally, behind a police station in the middle of the road, or on the side of the road, and so that was completely contrary to my manifestation, right? To my imaginal act. Does everyone see how that was completely the opposite of what I imagined? I imagined he was sober. The next day he was found in a gutter, alive, but on the side of the road behind a police station, right? Yeah, exactly. So completely contrary. Nevertheless, that was the bridge of incidents which ultimately made him clean and sober, and he has been and remains so ever since. So I'm going to move on from that. Does that make sense though? Raise your hand, please. I'm glad.